everyone. This is Michael. I'm with Dennis.
What's up?
Today we are with Diana DiZoglio.
Good job.
Did I pronounce your name properly?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually I think my family actually we pronounce it the wrong way according to most of the Italian nanas that I talk to who say you pronounce your name the wrong way. But I was born and raised in Methuen, and my family says DiZoglio, so I'm Diana DiZoglio. Nice to see you.
All right.
And everybody.
Awesome. So I wanted to start and get the emotional thing out of the way. The last time I saw you was at Brothers in Arms. And you came and you inspired, you know, when a new nonprofit's coming, I feel like no matter who they are, they don't feel seen. And now that you're like, when you're in the state auditor's office, I didn't think it's not that I didn't expect you, like you pop up in places, but like to see you there and you were like really there and you were really like, hey, I've seen you like, you know, coach and all that. That's very emotional for me because it's so hard to keep inspiring people to get involved and you know, build something, and you always prioritize that. So I just wanted to start there, like I really, as a friend, you know.
Yeah, thank you.
Local.
So you know that I was born and raised in this area and grew up here. Grew up in a similar crews as your wonderful wife, Kat, and grew up, you know, just being taught about the importance of community and the importance of investing locally and helping each other out locally and making sure that we take care of one another. And I think that community is a big part of who I am, who you are. And yes, we have our jobs that we do and our day jobs that we use to give back to our community. But, you know, the work that we do in addition to that, it's still incredibly important to me. I know it's important to you. So I'm really humbled to have the opportunity to be here today with you, community advocates, to talk about some of that stuff.
Super awesome. So the other thing I had is, so for me, I've been fortunate, you know, 15 years, I feel like I've been got to watch you, didn't realize it, you know what I mean? But you're watching the evolution of this person, and we would be in certain groups in different areas where we'd like circle back, and I just see you grow and grow. But I feel like you became a superstar here. And I'm just saying because everywhere I went, you were known, you were active. But then you took on a state role. And I didn't think you were going to take the boots to the ground approach that you did local, because I didn't know it was possible until I saw you do it. And what I mean is like you literally go out and any area you're representing, you want to understand it. And you actually put yourself through, I mean, how many towns have you actually visited in Massachusetts?
Oh, I haven't been counting, but there are 351 cities and towns. I've been to most of them, I would say. I'm out quite often, traveling around, just visiting different folks, different community groups, different activist groups, and then just meeting one-on-one with individuals as well who just want to grab a coffee and talk about, you know, some things in state government that they see that they want to be addressed. But to your point, Dennis, you know, look, it's you don't forget where you came from, right? And you, when you enter into these roles, I think a lot of people kind of just see you once you've, you know, allegedly arrived, and they see you with the title. They might read about you in the newspaper, but they don't necessarily know how you got to where you are. I think a lot of assumptions are made about how you ended up in a particular role, you know, because people only have the information that they're, you know, either reading in the newspaper, reading in these articles, reading in these news interviews or what have you. And that's great because, you know, folks need to know about the work that you do. But look, everything that I've been able to accomplish has been because I have an amazing group of just wonderful humans around me who are supportive of making life better for everyday people of the Commonwealth, who want to see our neighborhoods succeed, who want to help people who are struggling. And we've had that in common, and we might have different roles to play. But, you know, just coming together in those sort of after hours spaces that we talk about. And again, these community groups, that to me is where the real work is getting done, of making sure that during the time that we spend on our work during the day, that we're able to keep our finger on the pulse of what's really important. I'm the state auditor for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We conduct audits. It's pretty much what everybody's reading on their Friday nights with a glass of wine, right?
Possibly.
Yeah. Not too many, right? So, it's not really, the funnest thing to talk about all the time. And, people have a lot of other things that they're interested in, but the work that we do is important. We get to take the things that we're hearing out when we're talking one-on-one with people, when we're going out for these, to support a local nonprofit, for example. And we hear at a local nonprofit who's investing in kids, for example, right? That a lot of the kids that are in the system are having a hard time accessing mental health services, are, not having allegations of child abuse and neglect investigated properly, and that they're witnessing that when they deal with these kids who are in the system. Well, our office takes that information, takes those conversations, and gets to bring that back to the Office of State Auditor. And we get to talk with the over 200 employees that we have in the auditor's office and say, hey, let's, next time we audit the Department of Children and Families, really look at these specific areas, looking at mental health services for young kids who are in the system through no fault of their own, or look at, when we look at the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, whether or not child abuse and neglect cases are getting investigated the way that they should be getting investigated and getting resolved, so these children are protected if they come from these abusive environments. So those types of things that we're able to look at, we wouldn't be necessarily looking at those types of really important issues if we weren't coming out in the community and hearing about what people's concerns were and spending time investing in building those relationships and getting feedback from the people that, really have been experiencing, not so great of an experience with the state government right now.
So you've kind of touched upon something that I've been thinking about, like, what does an auditor do, and how we were saying earlier, like, there's people out there possibly on a Friday night sipping wine trying to figure out what's going on from these news stories. And as a person like myself who's from New Hampshire, I'm not fully engrossed in what's happening in Massachusetts, but for me it seems like the stories I see, it's like you up against the state. And before I came to this interview, I had a completely different set of questions in mind. And now that you've explained something, you've explained some of the work that you do, I think part of the problem, especially in these news articles, and I think even people within the public of Massachusetts for that matter, is that when they think of audit, they only think of financial audit.
Right.
And I think that's part of the problem. So I was going to avoid this, but you know what? I think you have to explain, what are you actually auditing? Like, what is the scope of all the things you're looking at?
Yeah. So first and foremost, look, I know that people who pay attention to what's happening in state government and read the news or watch the news, that they are seeing that, my office is taking on the establishment, the entrenched political establishment of Massachusetts who, a lot of folks have been in state government for way too long, and they think they pretty much own state government at this point. They don't believe that they have to show us how our tax dollars are being spent, or what they're doing with our tax dollars. They can just pass bills into law in the middle of the night with no recorded roll calls, don't have to tell us, anything about their attendance records or how they, voted necessarily on things. They're just like, there's a lot of hidden action going on at the State House in Boston right now. And this, has been going on for long before any of us arrived on the scene. But it's really being made salient to us recently because I've been trying to do my job and conduct an audit of Beacon Hill, of our state legislature. And I'm doing that with the approval of a 72% voter-approved mandate that won on the ballot last year. But yet our elected top leaders in Massachusetts are breaking the law and saying that they don't have to comply. Nobody's going to make them comply, so they're just going to keep breaking the law, and too bad for the people of Massachusetts. That's the wrong attitude to have, obviously, so it's causing a lot of mistrust. And what our office does is our office shines a light on those types of issues, like where are the tax dollars going, how are our tax dollars being used, but we also shine a light on process and procedures. Is what our state government doing actually working, or is it not working? And if it's not working, how can we improve upon systems? So right now we're having a hard time getting access to what's happening in the state legislature, which makes us all wonder, what are they hiding? But across the board, we're able to audit Department of Children and Families, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We're able to audit the MBTA, and we have produced multiple reports on the MBTA, especially pertaining to safety. I know I don't have to tell anybody here, but a couple of years ago, all we could read about in the news was trains catching on fire, derailments happening, ceiling tiles falling, right next to people when they're walking through the train station. People shouldn't have to fear for their lives when they are just looking to take a train or a bus to get to work in the morning or get to a healthcare appointment, right? So we went in, we audited the MBTA, we looked at safety and performance issues, we looked at ways that we could contract out better in terms of, making sure that the contracts the MBTA is negotiating and entering into actually come to fruition, that we're not paying more than we should be in the millions of our tax dollars. But we also can look at things like, and Dennis, you and I have done a lot of work on this, and me and you and Kat, but just on making sure that we do have diversity and equity and inclusion. That's not a bad thing to talk about, regardless of what the current administration says. We very much do need to focus on ways to make sure that we have equitable access to opportunities. And what our office has done to shine a light on that specific topic is we've actually audited the state's supplier diversity office here in Massachusetts. And we did so because during the time that I was a senator, I would constantly hear from folks about the fact that less than 1% of our state contracts in Massachusetts go out to minority-owned businesses. Less than 1% of those contracts that are in the millions of taxpayer dollars going out to these private vendors, only less than 1% go out to minority-owned businesses. That's according to GVH reporting. That's unacceptable. So our office looked at the supplier diversity office in Massachusetts, and we shined a light on ways to improve access, make sure that opportunities are being provided better to folks who are applying for, getting a state contract of sorts, being a vendor for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to create avenues for increased opportunities. A lot of folks don't know that the state auditor's office does things like that, looks at safety, looks at performance, looks at mental health services for children, looks at, making sure that we have equitable access to opportunities in state government. But we do all of those things, and we don't just look at the finances. Finances are a part of it, but we do what's called performance auditing. That's what we're called to do under the law. The law says we're to do performance audits, which is looking at performance. And we write a report, we put it out there to the general public and to the agency with a set of recommendations for how they can improve. And we do that with the mission of helping make government work better. That's the mission statement of the auditor's office, to help make government work better. And in that, we provide a service to the community and making sure that people have better access, that they're getting treated more fairly and more equitably by state government, and that state government is operating at its best so that people are better served.
So one of the things that I've always thought about when it comes to auditing, and I probably should give you this little background about myself. Like, I've been elected locally in New Hampshire, and so I have a little familiarity of, like, I was on the school board in particular, and school districts have to do audits. They do it every single year. Our particular school district has passed their audit the last few years, no problem. But yeah, there's people within the public who are like, oh, I don't know where the money is going, and this, that, and the other thing. When you are looking at these various different government entities, I'll just use one for example. Let's say you're auditing the Secretary of State, is that within your scope? And let's say you're auditing the voting process. Now, I know there's a narrative out there that says in the world, or within the country, I should say, that there's fraudulent voting happen, but statistically, it's like less than 0.001%. It's like usually 2 or 3 people per state, and it's usually a mistake. So let's say in that particular scenario, you're auditing one of these agencies. Are you looking for, or even I dare say hoping to find something wrong, or you're looking to make sure it's just running perfectly fine? Like, what is the objective?
So in all of the state entities that we audit, we go in and we follow what's called government auditing standards. It's actually a federal standard. It's from the federal GAO, the Government Accountability Office. Very fancy title. And yeah, our office has to follow those government auditing standards. So they can't go in, as though it's a free for all and just start pointing at things that they want to look at, because our office is not the FBI. We can't go in and take people's cell phones, or nor would we want to, or confiscate laptops or toss desks or anything like that. So our auditors go into these different state entities, and they very much go in and they look at protocols, procedures, process. They look at the books, they look at the documents, they look at the records, and they look at what the record reflects, and then they report what the record reflects. And a lot of times, if there is something that's raised to us as a matter of concern, if folks flag something to us as being an issue, we'll look at whether or not we are able to audit it under those government auditing standards. We'll look at whether or not law enforcement is currently involved, or because if they're doing an investigation, our office wouldn't audit that. They're already doing their investigation. But we look at ways to improve the system, and it's not, you're not looking for necessarily, just something that's bad, right? You're looking for, making the system, you're looking to make the system the best that it can be, right? So a lot of times even we won't find something wrong in a particular entity, but the auditors will write in the report that an agency should improve upon certain procedures in order to come into alignment with best practice and to make sure that they're operating at their best. And the auditors will say, hey, we did this audit. We didn't find any unlawful behavior or actions. We didn't find any violation of state regulations when we were examining this. And we didn't find any violations, but we did note some areas where this agency could see some improvements. And if you did some better record keeping, or if you implemented a set of protocols or procedures, this could help to become more transparent, more accountable, more accessible. So we'll do that as well. So yes, we do look and see if the law has been broken, if regulations have been violated with respect to the particular topics that we're auditing. But we also look at just areas for improvement to help an agency to become their best version of themselves.
Okay.
Can I
Sorry, I got to keep going.
All right.
I have another good question. So I think once again, this whole public perception of like what you actually do and what you're saying you do is like there's such a huge disconnect there. I'm sorry. Like the more you're telling me, I'm like, this is not how the news portrays it. But one of the things that I find sort of I think is a little bit ironic, right? So you're elected by the people of the state, working for the state, but almost separate from the state, like neutral, right? And then you're governed, or rather the work that you do is governed by the state and overseen by the federal government. So despite the narrative of you being disconnected from the state, it seems like you're more state than even maybe some of the representatives themselves.
So I'll actually tell you how it breaks down, and thanks for asking. It's actually a really great question. A lot of people will look at me and they'll hear, this is the state auditor. Next thing I know, they're flying out the door because they don't want to be talking to the state auditor. But the good news is I don't audit any of you personally at home. I'm not the IRS. I'm not the Department of Revenue. I think that there's some confusion over, even just with respect to what the state auditor does. I am a constitutional officer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, duly elected by the people of the Commonwealth to serve the people of the Commonwealth directly. A lot of folks will think, oh, well, the governor, they'll say, oh, I saw your boss the other day. And I'm like, oh, who is that? Because you're my boss. You're my boss. Right. So I was, I'll say, who was that? They'll say, oh, I saw the governor the other day, your boss. No, actually, the governor's my colleague. The lieutenant governor's my colleague. The attorney general is my colleague. The secretary of state's my colleague. and we are constitutional officers, and we are beholden to the people of Massachusetts. They are the ones who either, allow us to sit in the seat we're sitting in or take us out of the seat we've been sitting in. And they're the ones who essentially we answer to directly. So I don't audit the people of Massachusetts for the state or for the governor, for example. I audit state government, including the governor's office, the attorney general's office, the secretary of state's office, the different agencies that we've talked about. I audit those different state entities for you, the taxpayer of Massachusetts, and then I shine a light on areas for improvement so that you're better served.
So actually, I should probably clarify what I guess what I was trying to say, and thanks for making that clear point. But what I was trying to say is that yes, you're elected by the people, right? But your existence as an auditor was basically created by the government of Massachusetts. You
Yes.
see how it's like circular, you know what I mean?
Yes, they created the independent office of state auditor to make sure that there was accountability. When the auditor's office was created, and since its inception back in 1849 ish, it was the case that all state entities of government were audited by the auditor's office. Now, in recent years, there have been some corrupt practices that have made their way into our state government, namely with respect to our own state legislature, our own Speaker of the House and Senate President refusing to comply with an audit by our office that we've actually always done of the legislature since the beginning of the office's inception when it was created to provide that independent oversight on behalf of the people.
Right.
By looking at those financials, those processes, and those procedures. We've audited, for example, the state legislature. State legislature created, this avenue for this office of state auditor. Back then, we have over 100 audits of our state legislature since that time. In recent years, the legislature has been refusing to comply with the audits that our office provides, but they always had prior to that, and I think that that's what's helping to create some of this kind of confusion because people will see the auditor's office under my leadership right now standing up and saying, we need to do our jobs. This is a law. We're supposed to be conducting audits of what's happening in our state government, including in our state legislature. You'll see the state legislature that since the beginning of the auditor's office had always, until recent years, supported this type of independent oversight, now throwing up their hands and saying they don't want to follow the law anymore. They're just going to break it. They're not going to show us any of their documents. And I think that creates, this sort of confusion about what does the auditor's office do? You're there to audit them. They won't let you audit them, but yet the office was created by state government, right? So
Right.
I get the back and forth. Look, checks and balances matter. That's why the office was created. We want to be protected as tax-paying residents of the Commonwealth regarding where our money's spent. We work hard for our tax dollars, and we pay a lot out in our tax dollars, right? I mean, anybody looks at their paycheck at the end of the week, they see the portion that's being taken out and going towards, the government. They want to know that those tax dollars are being spent appropriately. So our office was created to provide independent oversight. That oversight is being rejected by current so-called leaders in the state, and we're trying to fix that.
So I wanted to say, your pathway is interesting for me because I think like most people don't understand that you were a state rep and you were a senator for a significant amount of time. And I guess my question is, I'm assuming, I've always assumed because I know you, but I assume that you made very serious attempts to try to get to what you're getting to now. I think there's an undercurrent of what a standard you're trying to elevate. But I think, am I wrong in saying that you tried to do this internally or to try to collaborate and now you're just like, I have to stand on my values? Is that wrong?
Yeah, we have to sleep at night, right, Dennis? I mean, look, we tried to work this out with the legislature for quite a long time. It's been years, it's been years. If they want to break the law, that 72% of you voted for, that's on them to explain to you. We're actually suing right now.
Right.
And, we're going to keep making sure that we're pushing to do the right thing here. But you can only have conversations to make progress with people who are willing to have those conversations. I park right in front of the Speaker of the House. He won't even say hello to me. So that's like the type of reality that's taking place at the State House right now in Boston. A lot of people don't even speak to each other. And, you might want to work together with other people, but those people have to be willing to work together with you. And, if you're saying the law should be followed and they're saying, no, it shouldn't be, that they're above the law, really, where is there room to collaborate there? They have to first acknowledge that the law should be followed. They have to first acknowledge that they're breaking the law, and then everybody can see it very clearly.
Right.
If we're going to talk about how they can start following the law. But there's a lot of collusion happening at the State House right now. Lots of conversations behind closed doors happening right now. Friends are covering for friends up there. And, the Attorney General, for example, just got a nice pat on the back from legislative leaders. She got millions of dollars extra in her budget to stay away from this, to focus on just the federal level and to leave the State House leaders alone.
So I do feel directly like, because I know that A.G. Campbell, I've seen her around, but I don't know the internal initiative. But I'm saying, do you feel that, or do you know that's the way that game works?
That's how the game works up there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it works up there. It's pay to play with a lot of these folks, and then it's also, one hand washes the other. So, the AG got millions of dollars in an increase to her budget. She's the only one who can enforce the law right now and make sure the law is being followed. She got millions of dollars in an increase while many institutions were getting cuts, seeing cuts, having to shut down their practices. We have mental health services that have not been funded, all sorts of things that, need attention from state government, from the budget right now, that are not getting the amount of funds that they need. The Attorney General ends up with millions and millions of dollars extra in her budget and just happens to be the one who's not enforcing the law for the most powerful politicians in Massachusetts. That's not a coincidence.
And so the other thing I got to kind of say from my perspective, you're a star in the sense where I didn't know about the auditor. So I think there's a portion of the community that you represent that you're one of us. And what I mean by that is like people have seen you go from Methuen, single mom, in community. Hey, there's Diana, right? Working to like.
Yeah, we all grew up together in community.
You're like
working at UTech.
Yeah.
UTech.
Well, you're a
Give
professional.
a shout out to my people out there.
You get what I'm saying. You have shot up, learned, educated yourself, competed at the highest level, standard, on time, knowing about the information. So my point is, the reason I'm saying this is because I never even knew about an auditor until you ran. So that's why I'm saying.
I mean, not many of us really did know about or pay attention to at least what the auditor's office
until
was
who
really
ran.
doing. I mean, once in a while a big report would come out and we'd hear about it, but kind of didn't really, think much about it after the fact. I'm one of those
You're
people,
ducking the
right?
question. Yeah, but
Oh, what's the question? Sorry.
Well, my point is your stardom brought visibility to that office, in my opinion, because you've been so.
I wouldn't say that, Dennis, and thank you. What I would say, thank you. What I would say is that because, I grew up in community and as an advocate and as someone who was working in these nonprofit spaces with a lot of people and really invested locally.
Right.
I think that in taking on the auditor's role, just talking as myself and talking like we've all been talking for years amongst each other,
right,
in this type of a position, that's what's made it more salient to people. And people say, hey, what's going on? We didn't even know there was an auditor's office. What's the state auditor do? What's all this stuff going on? And who is this woman who's talking about all of these things? I think it's just, I'm talking about issues that we've been talking about for years and that just weren't necessarily getting talked about in that space for a long time. And I think just that's what's making it more salient, is that we have a neighborhood person.
I hear you, but I'm just
we have a neighborhood person in there now, so
basketball.
I'm talking about things that we've all been talking about.
Basketball is different if you don't have a Jaylen Brown or a Jason Tatum, is all I'm saying. I'm saying like there's a level of professionalism that over 15 years, when you speak, we all go to political events, right? And certain people speak, no disrespect, I'm not really paying attention because of whatever. When you speak, I pay attention. You're passionate, you care, you sit in rooms with people you disagree with. I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? And you try to bridge people and you move on the collective, even when it's not your, like, you may not be like, yeah, I believe in this 100%, but this is what we agreed on. This is the work we did. And we're going to go in this direction. I don't see that. So when you say to me that there is serious division and serious issues, I believe you.
Mm.
Do you get what I'm saying? A lot of people say things to cause problems or whatever. Like, you have credibility with me, and I just appreciate your ability to stand in a, like, I am so sensitive. I care so much about what people think about me. Not like to say that. I try to act like I don't, but like, clearly you're picking a path that is just going to make people not like you because of that, and you're still standing on that. And I just, in this moment, want to say I appreciate your strength.
Thank you.
And that's where I'm saying all the stardom, because you know what I'm saying, people don't get their roses. And I say this living in Haverhill, and I love my community. Me and my wife had to stand on what was right in a very hard time for a very hard season, and it cost us friendships. People that I love hate me because it's like, why are you bringing up these issues? But they don't understand. I'm bringing up the issues because so we can clean the room. And it's not a, like, you know, this is how we create a better future for the kids. This is how we, it's not about trying to, I don't know if pin the tail on the donkey is wrong. Like, I'm scared of all terms now. You say a term and you're like, you know, this is horrific.
Yeah.
But I'm not about like, and I don't think you are. I don't think you're about like, oh, these are we're the problem. The problem is, as long as we don't continue to do what we're saying, the purpose of the brilliant people that put the office together, you're there. You have a bunch of employees that you have to face every day and support those employees and encourage and inspire them to do their duty. And like, you're doing that. And like, you know, I know, like, it's just like, it's messed up. Do you get what I'm saying? It's messed up.
Totally. And I think, Dennis, you know, what you're talking about, just with like people not liking you and stuff, yeah, it sucks. Sucks. You know, some people like hate me. Hate me. And I'll look at them and you can see they have like a burning passion of hatred towards me too. And, you know, little do they know, you know, after work, I'm, you know, going out, skipping on a hiking trail, you know, cleansing, clearing the cobwebs out, so to speak, you know, getting some fresh air and just thinking about the next positive thing we can do. But, you know, why is there that level of hate for trying to shine a light on ways to improve? You know, it's disrupting the status quo because things are going just fine for some people and they're going really, really badly for other people. That's why we do what we do. Why do we look at process and procedures in these state agencies and state departments? You know, it's to help them do better so people are getting better access, they're getting better served, they're better helped. You know, we walked by DYS on the way up here, Department of Youth Services. We audit the Department of Youth Services. We want to make sure that our youth and our communities, our preteens, our teens, you know, our young adults, that they're getting access to services they need. You and I grew up as, you know, teens that we talked about this, getting in trouble all the time, right? Getting in trouble all the time. I was born to a 17-year-old single mother, mental health issues in the family, substance use disorder in the family, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, all sorts of stuff, right? And you have your story that you've shared with me and a lot of people, your testimony. People need help. These kids need help. These young adults need help, right? We audit those entities to say, not, oh, you know, bad DUIS, bad DCF, you know, you didn't do this the right way and we just want to say you did something bad just for the sake of saying it. No. We tell them where they need to make improvements because we care about the human lives that are being impacted by their ability to do their jobs to the best of their ability, right? It's not any one worker, any one person. We have a lot of good social workers, a lot of good people who went to school so that they could serve people in our community, and they end up working at these different agencies. We're not auditing these agencies to shame them, to shame these amazing workers who are putting their best foot forward, who are really trying to make a difference. What we're doing is we're looking at broken systems of government and looking at how people are not being served by those systems and how they're being hurt potentially by those systems. And then, yeah, we call these agencies forward to make changes so that people actually have a chance at success when they go into the system, right? We want to make sure that people have the ability to succeed. We don't want people just to be surviving. We want people to be able to thrive after they've had these interactions with these state agencies. So that's where that passion comes from, Dennis. We were talking about where does it come from, and you're focusing on this. We didn't really hear about the auditor's office much, before you got in. Well, guess what? I'm bringing, my childhood experience, my teen experience, my experience in the workplace, my experience just growing up in the Merrimack Valley in Massachusetts. I am bringing that voice to this office, and I am trying to shine a light on the things that I have seen happen in our community, in these types of spaces where we can and must do better for people. People are struggling. And the people that are pissed off at people like me in our office when we shine a light on these things, the people for whom everything is just going fine for.
Right.
Okay? The people who are in the system who say it's good enough for them, stop trying to, ruffle feathers or shake things up or, change the status quo. It's going just fine for them. So they're not inspired to make changes for the people who are in the trenches, for the people who are struggling, for the people who are battling addiction, for the people who are battling to get access to mental health services because they're not okay and they're seeking and searching for help. We need to make changes in government. We need to give people access. We need more equity. We need more fairness. State government is not working for all families in Massachusetts the way that it could and it should, regardless of our family background, our bank balance, or our zip code. And that's what we are working for in the state auditor's office. We're working to help people and to shine a light in the dark areas of state government because it needs a lot of cleaning up right now, and sunlight is the best disinfectant.
I agree. One last question. Can I ask one last question?
Go for it.
So if I guess my question is, has there been any attempts for typically in certain spaces you can get an informal meeting, which is not a formal meeting, but it's an informal meeting where you can kind of feel out. Has there even been any let's meet informally or discuss, or is it all
It's a charade. What they're trying to do is the Senate tried to hold so-called hearings to try to allegedly talk about this and see what they're willing to do and not willing to do. But they're holding hearings on something that's already had hearings and already become law. And the reason why they're doing that is because they want to bring in their own cherry-picked people to tell them what they want to hear so that they can make an excuse to break the law that people just voted for. It is called a kangaroo court. That's kind of the slang term for what they're doing, which is they are putting themselves in the seats of judges, and they are acting not as legislators, but they are acting as judges themselves and saying, oh, well, we don't want to follow the law, so we're just going to hold a hearing ourselves instead of letting this go to court, and we ourselves are just going to change the law or decide what we're going to follow and not follow. And they're actually blocking our access to court right now, Dennis. It's insane. They're blocking our access to court. We always get told, what happens when you get arrested? You get read your rights, right?
right?
Yeah, you have a right to remain silent. You have a right to an attorney.
Right.
You have a right to an attorney. We are actually being told by state government right now in the Office of State Auditor that we don't have a right to an attorney, that we don't have a right to representation, that we don't have a right to access an impartial hearing in a court of law in the justice system to fight for our position, to fight for the law to be followed, and that justice is not going to be served, that the Constitution doesn't matter to these people, and that our constitutional right to an impartial hearing is going to be denied to our office, is going to be denied to me, it's being denied to the people of the Commonwealth. That's unacceptable. There is a lot of there are a lot of corrupt practices happening right now in state government, and we're working to shine a light on that. And yeah, some people don't like me because of that, but too bad, because we've seen what's happening. We're standing up, we're saying enough is enough, and we're not going to allow the people of the Commonwealth to suffer without access, to suffer with these inequities that continue to exist and permeate our communities. because a few people in power have become all powerful, and people just don't want to say anything about it. No, we need to start saying something about it. Democracy is at stake here in Massachusetts. When you have our elected officials in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts looking back at the electorate and saying that the election didn't count, it doesn't matter what you voted for to become law, they're just going to break it, that's authoritarianism.
Yeah.
That's a dictatorship. That's not democracy. Democracy is when the people speak, their voice counts. When we go to vote, the election matters. That's why we have elections, right? We have free and fair elections that we are, thinking are fair elections. But yet the elected officials in Massachusetts are looking back at us and saying, your vote doesn't matter. They're just going to break the law regardless of what you say. They're going to deny the results of the election. Talk about authoritarianism at the federal level. I'm at the state level. So let's talk about what's happening at the state level here.
Right.
Because it's not just this threat of undermining democracy and this threat to democracy. It's not just happening with the current Republican administration at the federal level. And it is happening there, this threat to democracy. Let's be clear. It's also happening right here in Massachusetts with our own Democratic establishment, so-called leadership, who are acting as though they're dictators and that what they say goes and that they don't have to respect the will of the people. They rule and reign with supreme authority. And you know what, Dennis? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's what we're seeing right now. So it is time for us to stand up, to speak out, to not shy away from calling on our state reps and state senators to do the right thing, to follow the law. You'll hear, oh, they're trying. No, they're not. They're breaking the law. The law is being broken. I love a lot of my colleagues in the state legislature, but I also love transparency and accountability. And I think that if we continue to speak the truth in love, that we will see those changes. But we have to remember to speak the truth. We can't shy away from it. We have to stand up. And like you said with you and Kat during that season of your lives when it was challenging for you to speak your truth and people were coming at you and people were saying all sorts of negative things about you and they didn't understand why you were doing what you were doing, but you knew in your heart of hearts that you were called for such a time as this. That's what's happening right now with respect to this movement as well. This is a big issue. We need to protect democracy. We need to make sure we're not allowing just a handful of powerful and privileged politicians to be dictators in our state. We need to stand up to that. This is the time to make sure that we are speaking that truth, that we're walking with integrity, and that to me is what's going to help to change things across the board when it comes to making sure we're getting the right amount of funding to these mental health services, addiction resource centers, youth centers, community centers, all these different spaces, and the list goes on. Public education, public transportation, making sure people have adequate access to health care. A handful of people are controlling those things at the state level.
Responsible development.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask you one, and that's no, because I know Mike, you got probably.
Well, no, but we're really short on time, so you got to make it quick. And then I have my questions.
So I wanted you to share, possibly, maybe not details, but share how you've been inspired by the people that work under you, because I think you're so visible, right? But there's so many people under you that I feel like from working in state government, I can feel the passion of your leadership. Like you got a team of people, you know what I mean? So is there like for your office, what is it like leading people the right way? Because I want to share, not only was it voted on, but you had to collect signatures, connect, like to get it on the ballot. Like I remember that process of seeing you in different market baskets and your team. And so
you did. I saw you at the Haverhill market basket.
And people know that, right? I think people that are going to see this will
there
know.
Were a couple Haverhill market. I forget which one I saw you at, but it's definitely in Haverhill.
So there's a process that's one process, right? Which is, and then you have just your process of working in your office, like actually on audits, and people that I'm assuming chose that because that's their skill, their passion, and their gift, and they want to serve, and they've done everything the appropriate way, and now the system they serve is, we say that you should be able to pursue happiness, right? And you should be able to pursue justice in this great country. So what is it like for you leading people, but they're being, you get what I'm saying? And is there
Yeah,
people under you
totally.
where you're like, wow, this person is completely shining, you know what I mean, in this context? Because they got to
Yeah.
believe in you, believe in everything.
That's mine. Can you actually just click the stop button?
Yes,
So I do need to go after this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to finish with this question, okay?
Okay.
And this response. First of all, I have an amazing team of people in the auditor's office. I am incredibly blessed. I have a lot of hard workers who are doing the work of these audits on a daily basis. The campaign was separate from the office.
Right.
The campaign was more with activists in the community, people who really cared about this, you know, and who wanted to join together to pass something into law to make sure that we were increasing access to opportunities, increasing accountability and transparency. That being said, when you talk about the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of justice, right, in this great country, in this great state, the reality is that it has been incredibly demoralizing, Dennis, on so many levels to watch us do the right thing, okay, to experience going through the system that's set up for us to be able to succeed in, being told that there's a ballot question process. If we get 100,000 signatures and then we campaign and we tell everybody out there what we're trying to do and we earn their support and we earn their vote, then we can win. When we organize, we win. When we fight, we win, right? And we've been hearing these things. And that's what we did. We organized, we fought, and we won. Fair and square. We won by 72% of the vote. What has been incredibly demoralizing? It was demoralizing during that fight to see that, elected leaders didn't want to embrace transparency, didn't want to embrace an audit, because what are you hiding? Why won't you just accept an audit?
Right.
Just take the audit.
Just move forward.
Yeah, just move forward. If there's stuff that you did that wasn't really the best, then we'll help you to, shine a light on it, make improvements, move on. It's just an audit. It's not an FBI investigation.
Right.
But they didn't want to do that. That was demoralizing during that time period, but it was something that I looked at as, okay, well, we're just going to need to go out and get the support of the people, and then they'll listen, and then they'll see the light, and then we'll change the law, and we can make progress. You know what, Dennis? We did make progress. We did pass something into law. We fought, we won, fair and square. And now what's crazy to me is that our own elected leaders here in Massachusetts and our own Attorney General are joining forces, circling the wagons, and they're basically saying back to the people of the Commonwealth that your vote doesn't matter. There is no hope for you. We're in charge. You're not. Deal with it. They're gaslighting the general public. They're blatantly lying to the general public, and they're blatantly breaking the law, and no one's taking action to change that. And the reason why they're doing that, Dennis, is because, again, absolute power corrupts absolutely. But what they want us to believe is they want us to believe that there is no hope. Because without hope, the people perish, right? Without hope, the people perish. And they're hoping that we will just go away, that we'll just forget this, that we'll get so demoralized, so discouraged, so disenchanted, so hopeless that we will stop fighting. And they will have their way and get to run the government without the people of the Commonwealth pestering them about doing things the right way, following the law, making sure that our communities are better served. It has been all of those things. It has been discouraging. It's been demoralizing. It's been disenchanting. I have felt hopeless at times. But I've come back, okay? With support from people like you in the community, encouraging, making sure that we are focused on why we're doing this. We're doing this to help people. We're not doing this so that, again, they're shamed or they look bad. That wouldn't be a reason to keep going with all of this. What, just so that you can show that somebody's not doing something the right way? We already know they're not doing something the right way. We already know they're breaking the law. People already know that. So keeping in mind, Dennis, why we're fighting for what we're fighting for, and just making up our minds that it doesn't matter how discouraged we get or how hopeless we feel. Find a reason to keep yourself encouraged. And if nobody around you is encouraging you, encourage yourself. Encourage yourself. Do what you can, where you are, with what you have. You might not have all the money. You might not have all the feelings of inspiration. You might not have what other people around you have, a position of power. But whatever you do have, use that to fight for justice. Use that to fight for your community. I was out there sitting outside Market Basket at a table with a couple of clipboards and a few pens on my own some nights, many nights, just asking people to sign this petition, sign this petition. And you know what? We passed it into law. They're still breaking the law. So guess what I'm doing now? I'm going right back out there with my clipboards, with my new petitions, with my new pens, and I'm asking people to sign petitions to pass a new law, the Public Records Reform ballot question, to increase access to public records and hold the legislature to the public records law, the governor's office to the public records law, so you get access to the documents you need in your state government. I'm working to pass that into law now because we cannot give up. We cannot go away. You know, most of this is just outlasting the opposition. It's outlasting the opposition. They want us to give up. We're not going to give up. We're actually going to double down on our efforts until we make some progress. And it's going to take all of us coming together, keeping each other encouraged, supporting one another, uplifting one another, making sure that we're all okay out here. You know, those of us who are advocating for these types of changes. But we have you know, a very powerful establishment, and some people in Massachusetts government right now who are abusing their power to self-serve. It's hurting the people of Massachusetts, and unless we stay diligent and determined, they are going to win. So that's why I show up every day, Dennis. I show up every day, even on the days that I feel discouraged, even on the days where I feel a little bit hopeless, and I say, success is the only option here because there's too much at stake. We cannot allow this to fail. We cannot allow this to continue. We got to just keep showing up every day and fighting the good fight together. So keep ourselves encouraged, right? That's the number one goal.
Yes.
I so want
And
to
I
say
gotta
thank
go.
you. Yeah, I want to say thank you.
I was just say definitely thank you. You actually technically answered my last question, which is,
Good.
do you do an internal audit? And yes, you technically do an internal audit because you're always trying to make sure you fight for what's right, and you want to make sure that you support and encourage others to continue doing the good fight, if you will.
Thank
So
you.
thank you
Thanks
very
so
much
much
for
for
having me.
having me on.
Thank you.
See you soon.